The name of Everett Sloane, an actor who appeared on this Studio One, was confused with writer Alan Sloane. Everett Sloane had trouble getting work.
She was the most beautiful woman. She was one of the finest women who ever lived. It was her misfortune to marry an owner of vast enterprises, a merchant prince.
This fine actor even got a clearance from the FBI, but the blacklisting people told him the FBI was too lenient. He remained under suspicion for years, a case of mistaken identity that harmed an actor's career.
But being also of a bookish turn of mind and not much interested in business...
Then there was the case of Lucille Ball. She had registered to vote communist when she was in her mid-20s during the Depression, but Miss Ball never voted communist. And since she was a great star, Philip Morris said they'd stand by her. They did. Her career flourished.
And now, suspense.
There was a double edge to this anti-communism. It happened when sponsors who should have concerned themselves with just good advertising got into the unaccustomed role of news and public affairs. This 1951 suspense program purported to tell a true story of underground anti-communism in Czechoslovakia, and the hero was a real organization called Radio Free Europe.
This is Radio Free Europe, the voice of free Czechoslovakia, bringing from our station in Munich messages of hope to our fellow Czechoslovakians imprisoned in their homeland behind the Iron Curtain. Tonight, we're going to speak especially...
These days, this is what we'd call a documentary drama. It told of a real event, people behind the Iron Curtain who received instructions on how to fight against communists from the Munich transmitter of Radio Free Europe. The drama continued its murky way to the mid-break and commercial. At that point, the president of the company, who perhaps didn't know he was being deceived by the CIA, introduced General Lucius Clay.
To present General Lucius D. Clay.
Well, it was last year's crusade that built the powerful Munich radio station of Radio Free Europe.
That's simply not true. Radio Free Europe's transmitter had been built by CIA money, not the money from public contribution. Radio Free Europe later confirmed that fact. But at this time in the Cold War, the CIA wanted a cover story for Radio Free Europe, and it tricked businessmen and public figures into a money-raising drive called Crusade for Freedom, which never funded more than a small part of Radio Free Europe. In a burst of public service, the sponsor gave up his commercial, and General Clay put in a plug for the Crusade for Freedom.
That is what the Crusade for Freedom is now doing, in a voice which each day penetrates deeper through the Iron Curtain.
What had been penetrated by the CIA was network television.
Ladies and gentlemen, you can join the 1951 Crusade for Freedom by sending your contribution, large or small, to General Lucius D. Clay. Remember, you can help fight communism by joining the Crusade for Freedom.
Good evening. Tonight, See It Now devotes its entire half hour to a report on Senator Joseph R. McCarthy, told mainly in his own words and pictures.
One of those documents that was never supposed to have seen the light of day. Rather interesting it is. This is the document that shows that Alger Hiss and Frank...
The man with the biggest list of all was the junior senator from Wisconsin, Joseph R. McCarthy. In March 1954, Ed Murrow took him on, but a half hour of prime time was not enough. Joseph McCarthy was in full voice 3 years after the United States had been united by coaxial television cable. But McCarthy was not greatly interested in the alleged communists in television. He thought the United States was in peril of internal subversion because the whole government was soft on communism. He truly believed the internal peril was there, and he seemed to believe that any means were justified to root out the communists in our midst.
And wait till you hear the bleeding hearts scream and cry about our methods of trying to drag the truth from those who know or should know. But they say, oh, it's all right to uncover them, but don't get rough doing it, McCarthy.
Joseph McCarthy was not brought up on television, but he would be brought down by it. At 9:30 Eastern Standard Time in the early 50s, the legitimate theater and television discovered they were not made for each other. At 9:30 Eastern, a generation ago, the greatest musical star of the Broadway theater, Mary Martin, and the greatest musical star of the British theater, Noel Coward, tried to bring their refined, exquisitely honed talents to this brawling, hungry infant, live television.
They're tuning up.
I know they are, dear. I can hear them.
But how do you feel?
Terrible.
Oh, good.
It was all lovely, but Broadway wasn't going to work on TV. It took years to develop an act, and television gave it all away in minutes. Noel Coward and Mary Martin knew exactly why they were going to fail.
90 minutes is a long, long time. A long, long time. A long, long time. To make people laugh for an hour and a half in this very exacting medium.
There's a lot to expect, and the final effect may be nothing but tears and tedium.
Don't imagine that we've not rehearsed. We did that first, but fear the worst. We hope to amuse the customers with music and with rhyme, but 90 minutes is a long, long time. 90 minutes is a long time.
Mary Martin and Noel Coward.
In the 1950s, the bigger the show, the bigger the number of curtains. This is going to be a 3-curtain show. Listen closely now. The English language will never come at you any faster.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to sing you a song that I wrote long ago and far away. The name of it is Mad Dogs and Englishmen. In tropical climes, there are certain times of day when all the citizens retire, tear their clothes off and perspire. You know, it's one of those rules that the greatest fools obey because the sun is far too sultry and one must avoid the pottery little rain. Tap like a pat, like a pat, like a boo. That's natives, if you're interested. Digga-digga-digga-digga-digga-digga-doo. The natives grieve when the white men leave their huts because they're obviously, definitely nuts. Mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. The Japanese don't care. The Chinese wouldn't dare to. Hindus and Argentines sleep firmly from 12 to 1, but Englishmen detest a siesta. You know, in the Philippines, they have lovely screens to protect you from the glare. In the Malay states, there are hats like plates, which the Britishers won't wear at 12 noon. The natives swoon and no further work is done. But mad dogs and Englishmen go out to the midday sun. Oh, it's such a surprise for the Eastern eyes to see that though the English are effete, they're quite impervious to heat. When the white man rides, every native hides in glee, because the simple creatures hope he will impale his solar topee on the tree. Inhabiting hides the same natives, pay no attention. It's a shame when the English claim the earth that they give rise to such hilarity and mirth. Oh dear. Mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. You know, the smallest Malay rabbit deplores this foolish habit in Hong Kong. They strike a gong and fire off an noonday gun to reprimand each inmate who's in late. In a jungle town where the sun beats down to the rage of man and beast, the English garb of the English South merely gets a bit more creased. In Bangkok, at 12 o'clock, they foam at the mouth and run. But mad dogs and Englishmen go out to the midday sun. Mad dogs and Englishmen go out in the midday sun. The toughest Burmese bandit can never understand. The heat of noon is just what the natives shun. They put their Scotch or rye down and lie down. In the jungle swamps where the python romps at his peace from 12 till 2, even caribous lie around and snooze with nothing else to do. In Bengal, to move at all is seldom, if ever, done. But mad dogs and Englishmen go out to the midday, 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 out to the midday sun.
If the legitimate theater was going to be only a rare event on TV, there was an illegitimate theater that was going to provide days of drama. Government, politics, and television. The Army McCarthy hearings of 1954 made the best show of the year.
Gentlemen, will you please take your places?
Like the Watergate hearings of this decade, the Army McCarthy hearings, which went on for 36 days, provided